Lost Sparks, Captain Cole Payne did not come to Nixara to babysit. He came for duty, for the uneasy peace, for the orders handed to him by people who had never bled on alien stone. He wore dark combat armor that drank the hard sun, and he moved with the weight of 15 years of war on his back. At his heel padded Argo, a massive German shepherd with alert ears and calm eyes. The spaceport was a maze of steam and fumes, loud vendors, sharp smells of spice and fuel, and 100 languages thrown into the air like knives. The peace treaty was 3 months old, new and thin, a paper shield over old scars. Cole did not trust the smiles he saw, and he did not trust the shadows between the cargo towers. He trusted Argo, and he trusted his own habits. "Keep close, Argo," he said, and the dog tucked in tighter. A small voice touched his ear like a tap on the shoulder. "Excuse me, human sir." Cole turned, his hand near his sidearm out of instinct, not threat. 3 Vidian girls stood there in lilac dresses that did not belong in the grease and grit. Their emerald skin shone softly under the shade. Their pale hair was braided in careful patterns. Their eyes were large and bright. The tallest spoke, with a steady tone. "We are, I believe your word is lost. Our guardian was to meet us at the central plaza. We cannot find our way back." Cole looked around the industrial lane. This was the wrong side of the port for royal children. Too many hard faces, too many places to vanish. "Where is your escort?" he asked. She became separated when the crowd surged. At the merchant square, the tallest said, "We tried to return, but the paths turned and turned." Cole rubbed a hand through short sandy hair and tasted old anger on his tongue. This should not be his problem, he told himself. But they were children, and that still meant something. It had to, or nothing else did. "Fine," he said, his voice gruff but not unkind. "I will get you to the central plaza. Stay close. Do not touch anything. Do not wander." The girls nodded like soldiers taking orders. "Names?" he asked as they moved. "I am Talia," said the tallest. "These are my sisters, Mira and Lena, Captain Cole Payne," he said, "and this is Argo." At the sound of his name, the dog's tail gave one solid wag, then stilled in focus again. They walked, and Cole took the back alleys that gave him sight lines and exits. He kept one palm near his holster and one eye on every rooftop catwalk. Vidians in work rigs glanced at the trio, then at the human armor, then away. Now and then a hand reached from a market stall to offer fruit or trinkets to the girls. The girls reached for Argo's fur instead. Soft touches, quick giggles, quick apologies. "Your animal companion is magnificent," Talia said. "Is he a warrior beast?" "He is a dog," Cole said. "He has been at war like me." Mira's voice was small. "Are you tired of war?" Cole did not answer, and his silence said enough. The closer they came, to the merchant quarter, the stranger the noise felt. Shops shut early, shutters clanged, vendors scooped goods into crates with hurried hands. A courier ran by with a warning in the Vidian tongue. "Royal announcement," someone told Cole in clipped English. "All gathering suspended." "Royal announcement," Cole repeated, and he looked at the girls. They lowered their eyes, and something about the way every other Vidian watched them made a line of cold run down his spine. "Who are you waiting for at the plaza?" he asked, his voice even. Before Talia could answer, a roll of metal. Boots sounded like thunder across stone. Orders cracked through the air, armor flashed, the crowd split. "Royal Guard," Talia whispered, not with pride but with fear. "Please, we cannot be found here." Cole did not think. He moved. "This way," he said, and cut left into a service lane that ran along the spine of a freight tower. He counted doors, counted cameras, counted ways to vanish. He took them under a loading deck built like a long concrete rib, shadow thick and cool. No one was there. The shift had cleared for the announcement. "We will wait for the streets to settle," he said, sliding his back to a pillar and letting his legs fold. Argo sat at his right, breath steady, eyes bright. The girl stood unsure and brave, and then the smallest spoke. "May we sit with you? We are tired." Cole nodded and kept his gaze on the lane. They came close as if drawn by heat. Talia took his left side. Mira and Lena curled into the right. Their small hands found edges in his armor and anchored there. "Hey," Cole started, but their eyes had shut already and their breathing had slowed to soft, even waves. Argo lowered his head to his paws and stared outward with the patience only a good dog can hold. Cole listened to the far boots and the near breaths, and the old ache behind his heart eased a little. He had held human children once, long ago, before years took them from him and duty took the rest. He told himself he would close his eyes for a count of 60, just until the noise passed, just until the heat stopped grinding at his skull. The pillar felt like a promise against his spine, and sleep reached in and took him by the collar. Cold metal kissed his throat, and his eyes opened. "Do not move," a voice hissed in accented English. A dozen royal guards ringed the shadow, blades and pulse rifles leveled, armor polished bright enough to shame the dark. Cole did not flinch. He measured distances. He measured outcomes. He measured that none of them mattered with 3 sleeping children on his chest. "Stand down, Argo," he said softly, and the dog froze a growl in mid-birth and held. The circle split for a figure taller than the rest, a presence before a face. A weather front in human terms, she wore authority like second skin. Her emerald tone darker, her eyes a deep fire that did not blink. Cole knew who she had to be before any title was spoken. Empress Valora, the Unyielding, stepped from the line and looked down on a human soldier with 3 royal daughters asleep against him. "This is not what I expected to find," she said, voice smooth and edged. Her eyes human. Cole breathed once, slow and deep, and slid an arm under the girls to lower them gently to the deck. They did not wake, trust still heavy in their limbs. He stood to full height, armor jointing with soft clicks, and gave name, rank, and origin in a tone that did not shake. Captain Cole Payne, Terran Marine Corps. The Empress studied him the way a blade tests another blade. "You have something that belongs to me," she said. "With respect, Your Majesty," Cole said. "They found me. They were lost, and this district is not safe for anyone, let alone children." Her eyes narrowed and every guard's knuckles tightened. Cole did not lower his gaze. He had decided his line when the girls took his chest for a pillow, and he would not step back now. Silence stretched like wire, thin and dangerous. Then the Empress laughed, a sound like a low bell in a cold room, sudden and warm. "Few speak to me so plainly," she said, "and fewer earn my daughter's trust." The smallest stirred, blinked, and saw her mother. "Mother, you found us." Valora knelt, fierceness melting into something soft and private. "Yes, little one. And it seems you found a protector." Talia stepped forward with careful grace and bowed her head. "The human captain was kind, he kept us safe." Valora rose, her eyes still on Cole, curiosity and calculation in equal measure. "Captain Payne," she said, "I have a proposition for you." Cole felt the old world tilt under his boots. He had come to deliver reports and keep a low profile until the treaty set like cooling metal. But fate is a poor reader of orders. The Unyielding did not blink. The guards did not breathe. The girls leaned into their mother with sleepy faith. Argo lifted his head and watched his man. Cole did not know the shape of the path ahead. He only knew one thing with clarity. He would walk it while the children were safe. And he would keep them safe if the path turned bad. That was the choice he could live with. That was the spark that still burned in him after all the years, and on a hot alien afternoon, under a concrete rib, a human and a queen began a story neither of them had planned to write. The Unyielding Queen. Cole Payne stood in the ring of steel, his hand loose by his side, his eyes steady. The Empress of the Vidian Empire herself stared at him, tall and sharp as a blade, her emerald skin darker than her daughter's, her presence heavier than her armor. Behind her, the royal guard waited for her word, rifles raised, blades humming, ready to cut down the human who dared stand tall in their circle. Cole did not blink, and Argo did not move, both waiting for the storm. Valora, the Unyielding, spoke at last, her voice smooth like glass, yet carrying the weight of planets. "You have something that belongs to me," she said, her eyes falling on the 3 girls curled in sleep against the cold ground. Cole's voice was steady, carrying the grit of a soldier who had buried too many brothers. With respect, Majesty, they found me. They were lost in a district where no royal children should walk. I protected them, that is all. The guards bristled, insult twisting their stance. But the Empress lifted one hand, her gaze sharpened, and Cole felt the kind of scrutiny that no battlefield ever gave him, the way a queen measures both loyalty and danger in the same breath. You claim to protect what is not yours when my own guard failed, she said, her tone like a trap. Cole answered without hesitation. I protect because someone must, even when the order does not exist. That silence that followed was dangerous, a silence where treaties could shatter, where one command could restart the war. Then the unexpected happened. The Empress laughed, low and sudden, rich like thunder rolling far away. Even her guards blinked in surprise, shifting uncertainly as if the ground had tilted. Few dared to speak so boldly to me, Valora said, eyes burning with a strange light. Fewer still earn my daughter's trust. Her daughter stirred, climbing into her arms, relief and joy softening her face in ways that no war report had ever described. Yet when she turned back to Cole, the softness was gone, replaced by calculation, interest, something dangerous. Captain Payne, she said, voice now slow, deliberate. You will serve me, not as soldier, not as enemy, but as liaison, a bridge between your kind and mine. Cole frowned, every instinct of a Marine resisting the pull of palace intrigue. With respect, Majesty, I am a soldier, not a courtier. Her lips curved, not in humor but in challenge. Exactly, I have courtiers. I have diplomats. What I lack is a warrior who speaks with truth instead of riddles. Cole knew a trap when he saw one, but he also knew there was no way to refuse. Her gaze pressed on him like a weight, heavy with promise and threat. You will remain, she said. One lunar cycle, and we will see if this fragile peace survives your honesty. Cole glanced down at the three daughters now dozing against their mother's robes, and he understood the truth. This was no request, it was a command wrapped in velvet. He nodded once, a soldier's nod, the kind given when choice has already been stripped away. The queen turned, her robes trailing like shadow, and the guards closed ranks. Argo padded after his master, head low, ears sharp, as they left the spaceport. The eyes of every Vidian burned into Cole's back, not just suspicion, but something sharper, something that whispered, watch the human, he carries too much fire. The royal transport awaited, sleek and humming with hidden power. Cole climbed aboard, his armor clanking. Softly in the polished halls, the princesses chattered excitedly in their alien tongue, stealing glances at him. And even Argo received small hands on his fur with innocent giggles. Valora stood near him as the vessel lifted, her voice low, meant only for his ears. There is another reason I chose you, Captain Payne, she said, her eyes holding him. In place, you fight with a passion my people do not understand. I wish to see it, and perhaps use it. Cole stiffened, suspicion running through his blood. The Empress smiled, not kindly, not cruelly, but with the power of someone who always wins. The doors closed, the transport roared, and Cole Payne realized the battlefield had changed. No longer trenches, no longer firestorms, but halls of gold, whispers of daggers, and a queen whose interest could save peace, or ruin him forever, steel and silk. The Vidian royal palace was nothing like a battlefield, yet Captain Cole Payne walked its halls as if every corner hid a sniper. Marble walls glowed with alien light, the air smelled of flowers that had no names in human language, and the eyes of courtiers followed him like daggers wrapped in silk. Argo padded at his side, tail still, ears sharp, every step measured. The daughters waved at him when they passed, but the nobles whispered when they saw it, whispering that a human was too close to the throne. On the third day, the Empress summoned him to the private training arena. It was a vast circle under glass, ceilings where sunlight spilled like fire. Valora herself stood there, tall, elegant, armored not in war gear but in ceremonial combat robes. Today, she said, her voice smooth and commanding, we trade knowledge. I teach you Vidian. Combat, you teach me how humans fight. Cole's jaw tightened, but he nodded. Soldiers do not refuse training. He removed his outer plates and stood ready. Vidian combat looked like dance at first glance. Fluid movements, spins, sweeps, blades that seemed to glide like water. Cole braced in a human stance, low and stable, fists solid, his weight set to strike and not fall. Too rigid, Valora said, circling him. Stone breaks, water flows. Stone holds the line, Cole answered. Stone doesn't move until the battle is won. Her eyes gleamed not in anger but in interest, like a predator who has found prey that can bare its teeth. Then she stepped close, her hands lifting his shoulders, shifting his arms. Her touch was firm, but lingered longer than it needed. Your body heat, she murmured, almost to herself. Remarkable. Cole felt the warmth between them, dangerous warmth. The kind that makes a soldier forget which battlefield he stands on. Argo gave a low grunt, as if reminding his master that danger wears many shapes. Before Cole could speak, alarms split the air, shrill and urgent. Valora froze. Then her voice turned sharp as steel. Perimeter breach, Eastern Gardens, the comm barked. The princesses, she hissed, and Cole was already moving. With respect, Majesty, I'm not waiting for protocol, he growled, sprinting toward the gardens. Argo bolted beside him, claws scraping marble. The sound of a hunter unleashed. The garden pavilion was a maze of alien plants, tall blossoms glowing with blue fire, trees with leaves like knives, and paths curling like rivers, but the quiet was wrong, not calm, but waiting. Then Cole saw it, 2 royal guards down, armor smoking from energy burns, 3 dark shapes in stealth suits advancing on the pavilion where the girls and their tutors huddled in fear. Cole did not hesitate. Marines are not built for hesitation. He charged, shouting, drawing their eyes. The assassins spun, surprised to see a human instead of Vidian guards. That moment cost them. Cole slammed into the first, tackling him to the ground with force that cracked bone. A strike to the throat, fast and brutal, left the assassin choking. Energy bolts seared past him, burning the air. But he rolled fast, grabbing the enemy's fallen weapon. Argo launched like a missile, teeth sinking into the second attacker's arm, the weapon clattering free. The third raised his rifle, but Cole was already moving. He fired 2 shots, precise, one to the leg, one to the shoulder, disabling without killing. In less than 30 seconds, the garden was filled with silence and smoke. Royal guards stormed, in, shouting, weapons raised, but the fight was already over. The assassins lay broken, the children safe. The princesses ran to Cole, their eyes wide with awe, their small hands clutching his armor. You moved so fast, Talia whispered. You're like a warrior out of stories. Cole knelt, scanning them quickly for wounds. None, only fear. Argo stood at his side, muzzle wet with blood, tail stiff with pride. Valora arrived with her personal guard, her face a mask of fury until she saw her daughters alive. Her voice dropped to iron when she faced Cole. You disobeyed protocol, human. Guards are sworn to their protection. With respect, Majesty, Cole said evenly. I don't leave. Children to die while waiting for permission. The court gasped. No one spoke so plain to the Empress. Valora's eyes burned into him, then softened, just enough for the edges of her lips to curve. No, you do not, she said, loud enough for all to hear. And that is why humanity may yet strengthen us. The guards struck their fists to their chests, not for her, but for him. Cole felt every eye in the garden turn, weighing him not as outsider now, but as something else, something dangerous, something trusted, something new. Valora watched him longer than she should have. Her daughters clung to him like he was already theirs. And deep inside, Cole Payne knew. This was no longer about peace treaties, no longer about orders. This was the beginning of something larger, something that could change the Empire or burn it down with him at the center. The alarm that wasn't. The palace shook with alarms, sharp and urgent, red lights spilling across the polished stone. Cole Payne's instincts snapped alive. This was the same tone he had heard before enemy raids, before walls collapsed, before soldiers bled. Argo barked once, low and fierce, and Cole sprinted down the corridor toward the source, hand on his sidearm. The guards at the princess's wing looked uncertain, weapons raised but no threat in sight. Status, Cole, Barked voice iron. One guard hesitated. Majesty's daughters. Quarters triggered the alarm. Triggered. Not attacked, not breached, triggered. Cole felt suspicion crawl up his spine. He pushed the doors open, ready for smoke, for blades, for corpses. Instead, he found 3 little princesses sitting in a circle on the carpet surrounded by brightly colored Vidian board games. They looked up with exaggerated surprise, wide eyes shining, lips trembling with poorly hidden smiles. "Mother," Talia said in a voice far too polite. "Captain Payne." What a surprise. Behind him, Valora entered, her face cold as carved stone. "Almost as surprising," she said dryly, "as a palace-wide alarm coming from this very room." The girls exchanged guilty glances. Lena buried her face in Argo's. To hide her laughter, Cole crossed his arms, his combat armor clicking. "So, a malfunction then," he said, keeping his voice calm, though amusement tugged at him. "Perhaps," Valora answered, but her eyes burned with the knowledge of mischief. Her daughters were clever. Too clever. We couldn't sleep. Talia admitted, shoulders stiff with false innocence. "We were talking about human customs," Mira added quickly, her small hands fidgeting. Cole raised an eyebrow, suspicious. "Human customs?" "Yes," Lena piped up, smiling through Argo's fur. "Like how humans show affection." Cole froze, heat rising into his face. The Empress turned her head slowly toward him, her lips curving into something between amusement and interrogation. "And what have you learned about human affection?" she asked, her tone velvet-edged with steel. Mira spoke matter-of-factly. "Humans kiss with their mouths," Talia added. "They hold hands, they like to sleep close, like when we slept on Captain Payne in the spaceport." Cole cleared his throat, mortified. But the girls were not finished. "Humans also mate for life," Lena announced proudly. "Like the birds in the garden." The silence that followed was worse than any battlefield quiet. Cole wished for another assassination attempt. Anything but this. Valora's eyes stayed on him, curious, sharp, maybe even dangerous. "That is quite an education," she said softly, then turned her gaze back to her daughters. "Now, which of you triggered the alarm?" All 3 looked down at the carpet, shuffling feet. At last Talia admitted, "It was my idea, but Mira knew how to bypass the lock, and Lena pressed the button." Valora exhaled slowly. "A collaborative effort, then." "Why?" she asked, simply. The girls exchanged glances. Then Talia spoke. "We wanted to see if Captain Payne would come rescue us again." "And if you would come too, Mother," Mira added innocently. Cole bit the inside of his cheek to keep from laughing. Their audacity was breathtaking. Valora's stern mask cracked just enough for a flicker of humor, but her words remained firm. "Very well. 3 days without garden privileges, and tomorrow you will personally apologize to the head of palace security." The princesses nodded solemnly, though Cole noticed none of them looked truly sorry. They had tested him, and perhaps tested their mother too. And deep inside, he realized something unsettling. The princesses were cleverer than most of the courtiers and more fearless. Later that night, when the girls had been sent to bed and the halls were quiet, Cole found them again, not in mischief, but whispering, in the corridor when they should have been asleep. "Captain," Talia said in a hushed tone, her eyes serious, "there is something you should know." Cole crouched low, Argo at his side. "Go on." "We heard Lord Nexus speaking in the garden yesterday," Mira said quickly. "He said humans cannot be trusted. He said soon the royal line would be purified," Talia finished, whispering the word like it was poison. Cole's blood ran cold, the soldier in him already piecing the threat together. "Were you supposed to hear this?" he asked. The girls shook their heads. "We were hiding," Lena said proudly, "in the secret tunnel, the one behind the fountain." Secret tunnel, Cole thought grimly, and already saw how easily traitors could move unseen. He looked at the 3 little faces, bright with pride yet shadowed with fear. "You must not tell anyone else," Cole said quietly. "Not yet, do you understand? Let me carry this weight for now." They nodded, trusting him. And as he rose to his full height, Cole Payne understood something new. The alarms, the games, even the mischief. The children were not just innocent, they were also the sharpest. Eyes in the palace, and through them, the first threads of conspiracy had already unraveled. Far down the hall, Valora's voice echoed. Calling for her daughters, Cole gave them one last nod, his hand resting briefly on Argo's head. The dog's ears twitched, sensing the danger in the air that words could not yet shape. Somewhere in the palace, enemies were moving. Enemies, who whispered about purity, about bloodlines, about betrayal. The false alarm was over, but the real one had only just begun. Tunnel whispers, the Vidian palace slept in silence, but Cole Payne did not. He moved like a shadow through the royal nursery, following the small princesses who had sworn they knew a secret way, Argo. Padded behind him, silent, his nose twitching at the scent of stone dust and stale air, the children's tiny hands pressed against a carved bookshelf, and with a shove it swung open to reveal a narrow passage behind. This tunnel, Talia whispered proudly, leads to the garden fountain. Found it when Lena lost a toy, Mira added. Cole crouched low, scanning the dark, the air, cold and damp, the kind of place where plots could grow unseen. You three wait here with Argo, Cole ordered, his voice firm. I'll go alone. But Lena shook her head. We always win hide-and-seek in here. We know the turns. You don't. Cole wanted to argue, but the truth was bitter. They did know better. So he let them guide him, though his heart thudded heavy with the risk. The passage twisted, old stone groaning under its own weight, thin cracks in the walls, let in slivers of moonlight carving their faces into pale masks. After 20 minutes they reached the grate behind the fountain. Cole knelt, motioning for silence, and listened. Footsteps, voices, low and urgent, two figures meeting in the garden. Cole strained his ears, the alien words hard but clear. Everything is prepared, said a male voice. Yes, another answered, colder, female. The Rexian mercenaries failed, but they gave us cover. The real strike begins tonight. Cole's pulse quickened. Lady Perth, mistress of ceremonies, her voice sharp as he remembered from court. And the male voice. Nexus, minister of security, the man who smiled with no warmth. The human complicates matters. Nexus spat. But he is useful too. When the Empress is found dead in her chambers, slain by her human protector, the alliance collapses, the bloodline resets, and power returns to us. Cole's hand tightened on his sidearm, fury boiling. They would not just kill Valora. They would destroy the peace, paint humanity as traitors, and slaughter the princesses as unfortunate casualties. Lena gasped softly, but Cole pressed a finger to his lips, his eyes warning her into silence. Lady Perth's voice carried venom. And the children? Collateral, Nexus answered coldly. The Empire must be purified. Cole had heard enough. He pulled back, moving quickly through the tunnel, his mind racing with plans. The girls hurried after him, their eyes wide, fear shining for the first time. At the nursery exit, the bookshelf slid closed with a dull thud. Cole crouched low to their level, his voice low and sharp. You three listen, and listen well. Stay with your guards. No adventures, no tunnels, no hiding, not until this is over. Talia nodded solemnly, but her eyes were wet. Is Mother in danger? Yes, Cole said honestly. But I will protect her. That is what human knights do. The girls leaned into him, and for a heartbeat he felt their trust like a weight heavier than armor. Then he rose and turned to the guards waiting at the door. Double the watch on the royal wing, he ordered, voice hard. No one in or out unless the Empress or I command it. The guards saluted without hesitation. The human's authority was no longer questioned, not after the gardens, not after. This night Cole moved fast toward the council chambers, his boots ringing against marble, his mind a storm. Every step screamed the truth. Nexus planned to use him as the weapon, the scapegoat, the spark, to burn down peace. If Valora fell, the war returned and humanity would be blamed forever. Not just soldiers' lives, but worlds would burn. He turned a corner and nearly collided with Valora herself. Her robes trailed like shadow, her eyes flashing with command. "Cole," she said, her mask of Empress softening for an instant. "I was coming to find you. The council ended early." "We don't have time," he cut in, breath sharp. "Nexus is planning a coup tonight." The Empress froze. Then her face hardened into steel. "How do you know this?" "Your daughters overheard them," Cole answered quickly. "I confirmed it myself through the tunnels. Nexus and Perth plan to kill you, blame me, restart the war, and seize the throne." Valora's eyes narrowed, not in disbelief but in fury. "I suspected him," she said quietly, "but I lacked proof. Now I have it. Thanks to my daughters, Mischief. And your courage." Cole nodded, but his hand still hovered near his sidearm, his body wound tight. "Majesty, we need a plan. If Nexus strikes tonight, he will come through those passages. Let's turn his own plot into a trap." Valora's lips curved into something fierce, almost a smile. "You think like a soldier, Captain Payne. Good. Tonight we bait them, and when they come, we break them." The fire in her voice was the same fire Cole had seen on battlefields, but this time it was not pointed at humanity. It was pointed at her own court, her own traitors. And as they strode side by side through the halls, their footsteps echoing together, Cole realized the truth. The war was not over. It had simply changed walls. The enemy was not out in the stars anymore. The enemy was inside the palace, hiding in the shadows, waiting to strike, and if Cole Payne failed, the peace would not only end. Humanity itself would wear the mask of the assassin. The midnight trap. Midnight in the palace was never truly dark. The walls glowed faintly with alien crystal. The courtyards hummed with fountains, and the air carried a hush that only sharpened the nerves. Cole Payne stood in ceremonial Vidian armor, its emerald plates gleaming like a predator's skin, but beneath it his human heart pounded steady. Beside him, Empress Valora adjusted her robes, her expression calm, though her eyes burned with storm. "This will work," Cole said, his voice low, though it sounded like he was convincing himself. "No," Valora replied without flinching. "But it will show us who dares raise a hand against the throne." She touched his shoulder, firm, deliberate, a queen's command and something more. "Remember, they believe you are the weapon. Tonight we let them reveal themselves." The plan was sharp in its simplicity. Valora would retire to her chambers, a decoy form placed in her bed. Cole would leave through the front halls, but slip back through the tunnels. When Nexus came with his traitors, expecting to frame a human, he would find steel waiting instead. The princesses had been locked under triple guard, Argo pacing like a silent wolf at their side. Cole had pressed his hand against the shepherd's head before leaving, whispering, "Protect them, no matter what." The dog's eyes had gleamed with wordless promise. Now the palace bells tolled midnight, slow and heavy. Cole crouched in the narrow passage behind Valora's bedchamber, his breath steady, his weapon drawn. The grate before him showed the room dimly lit, the decoy form under sheets, motionless. Minutes dragged like hours, every sound amplified. The drip of water, the scrape of stone, the whisper of boots, the hidden door slid open. 4 figures crept in, shadows made flesh. Nexus, Lady Perth, and 2 guards loyal to him alone. Their weapons were drawn, their steps confident, the certainty of traitors who believed victory already theirs. "Remember," Nexus hissed, "the human strikes first, then dies second. The Empire will rise cleansed." His blade gleamed as he approached the bed, but before it could fall, Cole burst through the hidden entrance, weapon raised, his voice cutting the silence like thunder. "I wouldn't do that if I were you." The conspirators froze, their eyes wide for only a heartbeat. Then the Empress stepped from her antechamber with loyal guards at her side, her presence like fire made flesh. "Lord Nexus," she said coldly. Such an unexpected visit. The traitor snarled, his mask falling away, his face twisted with hate. "You've let the human poison your rule, Valora. The throne must be pure." "Pure?" Valora's laugh was cold, sharp. Our empire was built on strength through diversity. You have forgotten what makes us unyielding. Drop your weapons, Cole ordered, his sidearm steady. For a moment it seemed Nexus might surrender. Then his eyes flicked, not to Cole, not to Valora, but to the grate in the wall, Cole's. Blood iced over because he knew what lay behind that grate. 3 small faces, wide eyes, princesses who could not stay where they were told. The traitor lunged, blade flashing toward the opening. Cole didn't think. Marines are not built for hesitation. He dove, slamming himself between steel and children. The blade carved across his shoulder, burning, searing through ceremonial plates. Pain ripped through him. But he held. Behind him, Argo exploded through the grate with a savage snarl, slamming into Nexus with the fury of a wolf unleashed. Chaos erupted. Lady Perth fired wild shots before a loyal guard dropped her with a precise strike. The 2 traitor guards turned on Valora, but she moved like a storm, her blade slicing arcs of light, her voice commanding. "For the throne," she shouted, and her loyalists answered as one. Cole wrestled Nexus, blood soaking his armor, the minister's strength fueled by desperation. "You should have died in the war, human," Nexus spat. "Too bad," Cole growled, twisting, disarming, and slamming the traitor to the ground with bone-breaking force. The Empress's guards pinned him, weapons at his throat. The fight ended as suddenly as it began. Smoke, silence, and, Cole swaying on his feet, his blood painting the floor, Valora crossed to him, her hand pressing a glowing salve to his wound, her voice sharp with anger that hid fear. "That was foolish, Captain Payne, brave but foolish." "It worked, didn't it?" Cole grunted, forcing a grin. From the grate, the princesses crawled out, eyes wide, faces pale. "Is he going to die?" Lena whispered, clutching Argo's fur. "No," Valora said firmly, though her hands trembled as she bound the wound. "Not while I command it." The girls pressed against Cole, small hands gripping his armor, refusing to let go. And for the first time in years, Cole felt something heavier than war pressing on his chest. Not fear of death, but fear of leaving this strange, impossible family unprotected. The throne's choice, the grand hall of the Vidian Palace, had never been so full. Delegates from every corner of the empire gathered under crystal arches that glowed like frozen starlight. The banners of alien houses hung heavy, eyes watching, whispers sharp. And in the center of it all, Cole Payne stood armored, scar across his shoulder. A raw reminder of the night the throne almost fell. Argo stood at his side, proud, ears high. The 3 princesses sat on their smaller thrones beside. Their mother, their little faces unusually solemn, though their eyes sparkled whenever they looked at the human knight. And Valora, the unyielding, rose from the high throne, her presence like a blade unsheathed. "Today," she said, her voice echoing across stone and silence, "we mark more than the defeat of traitors." Her words carried weight, sharper than any war trumpet. "Last night, in these very halls, betrayal came for my blood. Lord Nexus and his followers sought to slay me, to frame humanity, to end the fragile peace." Gasps rippled through the audience, faces pale, fists clenching. "But their plot failed," she continued, eyes flashing, "because one man, a human warrior, stood where others would not." Her hand swept toward Cole, and for the first time in his life, the stares of thousands were not filled with suspicion or hate, but awe. "He bled for my daughters. He shielded them with his own flesh. He fought traitors not for his own people, but for mine." The court erupted in murmurs, shock and disbelief. Valora's gaze softened for only a heartbeat. But Cole saw it, the truth hidden behind the crown. And because of that, the empire is whole. Humanity is not our enemy. They are our allies, strong, loyal, fierce. Then her voice sharpened again, steel within fire. "The ancient law gives the monarch power to name a consort from any world, any blood, if that soul has proven worthy. Through valor and loyalty beyond measure." She turned fully, eyes locking with his. "I choose Captain Cole Payne." The hall gasped as if the very air had shattered. Ministers surged to their feet, voices rising in shock, some in fury, some In wild approval, the human delegation sat stunned. Torn between pride and disbelief, Cole's heart slammed in his chest, his soldier's mind screaming this was impossible, unthinkable. But the eyes of Valora never wavered, and neither did the three small princesses who were smiling as though they had known this ending from the start. Cole stepped forward, his boots echoing on marble, his scarred hand reaching for hers. Valora extended her palm, the Vidian gesture of binding, and he pressed his hand against hers. Then deliberately their fingers intertwined. A new symbol, half human, half Vidian, a gesture that carried more power than any treaty. Behold, Valora declared, her voice cutting through the storm of voices. Cole Payne, royal consort of the Vidian Empire, protector of the throne, and proof that peace can be forged not by treaties, but by trust. The hall erupted, not in whispers now, but in thunderous sound, cheers and chants shaking the air. The human delegation rose as one, the alien ministers bowed grudgingly, and Cole, standing at Valora's side, felt the impossible. Respect, belonging, home. The princesses broke protocol, leaping from their thrones and racing across the hall. They threw their small arms around him, laughing, unafraid of the crowd. Argo barked once, tail wagging, as if sealing the moment. Valora's lips curved into a rare smile, her regal mask slipping just enough to reveal something warmer. You came here a soldier, reluctant, weary of war, she said softly to him, though the hall still roared. And yet you stand now as more than that. Cole looked at her, at the three children clutching his armor, at the vast hall watching. I'm just a man who didn't walk away, he answered, his voice rough, simple, true. Valora's eyes gleamed. And that, Captain, is why you will never walk alone again. The cheers rose higher, filling the grand hall with a sound like thunder. And for the first time since the war, Cole Payne felt the weight of his past battles lift. He was no longer just a soldier, no longer just a human among aliens. He was protector, consort, father in all but name, chosen not by politics, but by trust born in fire. And as the royal family stood together, emerald and human, warrior and queen, soldier and children, the galaxy witnessed something new. Not conquest, not surrender, but a family formed in the heart of peace.